NBA's hidden gem, from thug to superstar. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 51. My brother came once in the morning. He has a stable job in the supermarket now, so don't worry. In the evening, after Wang Ke returned home after extra training, Claudia heated up the meal and chatted with Wang Ke about family matters. Wang Ke did not control the types of food too much. He needs to get enough energy every day to keep his body active. But he does not need to eat bland boiled chicken breast. However, Wang Ke would not touch things such as tobacco and alcohol that are obviously harmful to the body. When he was still in the slums, Wang Ke controlled this very well and never touched it. Every night when he returned home, Claudia's prepared supper would be Wang Ke's enjoyment after a tiring day. Because Claudia's Chinese cooking skills are getting better and better. Claudia is now devoted to Wang Ke, and she does many things very considerately. She is also very easy to feel satisfied. This often makes Wang Ke sigh that with such a wife, what else can a husband ask for? The world of glitz and glamour is so fascinating, it is so difficult to really stay out of it. A basketball player, if he reaches the top, is only as good as Jordan and Kobe, including the business empire after retirement. But how much real capital is there in this world? Starting with basketball alone, and then relying on some predictions to accumulate wealth, how can you compare to the wealth accumulated by generations of others? Then, why do those female stars and socialites fall in love with you at first sight and let you open a harem? For example, the sneaker contract, even if Nike and Adidas offer you a truly sky-high contract, so what? Your money is given to you by Nike, so how can you compare to Nike itself? From the starting point, you have already lost. Wang Ke does not have too much desire and demand for money. Everything is just for a better life. Who made Wang Ke not have a built-in system when he traveled through time? If Wang Ke has a system that makes money when he wins a game, or a system that makes money when he grabs a rebound, then he can try to change the wealth structure in this world. Because the system can bring supernatural power, independent of this world. Perhaps it is a product of the higher dimensional world? It's a good thing that he is a little busy. Otherwise, he might go crazy one day. Wang Ke said with a smile. Don't say that about my brother. But he is really crazy, sometimes. Claudia rolled her eyes at Wang Ke and served the cola chicken wings that Wang Ke liked very much. Eating midnight snacks before going to bed is easy to gain weight, but Wang Ke is obviously not in this category, because his daily training consumption is really too much. For Wang Ke, midnight snacks are more like nourishment for the body. Claudia is a little concerned about her figure, and only eats a little with Wang Ke at night. When she was in the slums before, she was always hungry every day, so Claudia naturally had nothing to do with being fat. I didn't expect that now that living conditions have improved, Claudia won't let herself eat too much. Women. Claudia. I think a little more meat will feel better. Wang Ke said with a smile. Oh. Claudia was stunned for a moment before she reacted, patted Wang Ke, and her face had turned red. The two have been very close for a long time, but when talking about these things, Claudia still feels shy. By the way. Look. The first round of votes for the All-Stars have been announced, and you are on the list. Claudia took out her big notebook, on which was posted today's newspaper, which contained the ranking of votes for Eastern Conference centers. Claudia also circled Wang Ke's name and votes with a red pen. I'm on the list? Wang Ke was surprised. He didn't pay attention to the All-Star votes, because he felt that he would not have any chance this season. Next season, Wang Ke is confident that he will be selected as an All-Star with his hard power. Even without relying on Dragon Country fans, it can still be done. Let me see. Wang Ke took the big book from Claudia. It's true. Wang Ke received 216,581 votes, ranking third among Eastern Conference centers in the first round of All-Star voting. Second only to O'Neal and Big Ben. Of course, Wang Ke's votes are a bit different from the top two. Big Ben has more than 500,000 votes. O'Neal has 1.5 million votes, which is enough to compete for the top vote. Wang Ke feels that it is impossible for him to catch up with the top two, so there is still no hope for him to be selected as an All-Star. The current ratio of All-Star selection is 1 center, 2 forwards, 2 guards. Including the substitutes, there will be 2 centers, 4 forwards, and 4 guards selected. The names of 12 people there are still 2 spots left. These 2 spots are usually picked by the league president. And the popularity of forwards and guards among fans is far greater than that of centers. So these two spots will basically be given to forwards and guards. In fact, from this season's All-Star voting, it can be seen that the center position has been completely declining. O'Neal, Yao Ming and Big Ben are the only remaining fig leaves. Later, the center became Big Z, Camby, and Dampier, and the gold content dropped by more than one level. In the previous life, in the 12-13 season, the league officially cancelled the center's position in the All-Star voting. Wait until next season. It's good to be on the list this season. Wang Ke smiled faintly. Wang. I have confidence in you. I vote for you every day. Claudia hugged Wang Ke from behind. Then how should I reward you? Wang Ke held Claudia's hands. It's not a question of whether you have confidence or not, but it depends on the intention of the league president. Wang Ke smiled and stopped thinking about the All-Star voting. What you deserve will always be there. What you deserve will not be lost. All Wang Ke's energy is now on the court. It is already the end of January, and the Bobcats' record is 22 wins and 18 losses, ranking 7th in the East. In a long season, if the hard power is not very sufficient, it is not an easy task to maintain the winning rate and ranking. The Bobcats finally have a perfect chemistry, and injuries are coming again. Gerald Wallace was out for 2 weeks due to a knee injury. Primoz Brezek sprained his ankle and rested for 1 week. Rod Strickland has been suffering from minor injuries and has been playing on and off. For a 39-year-old, this is to be expected. The only main player who was fully present was Wang Ke. And it was precisely because of Wang Ke's full attendance that the Bobcats' record did not collapse. The lineup was not deep enough, and the hard power was not enough. If they wanted to maintain their record, they had to rely on the main players. Then it would not be strange if injuries occurred one after another. If the Bobcats had no injuries and all the players stayed healthy for a whole season, that would be a wonder. And Wang Ke's data for the whole month of January was forced to become a catch-all, which was very explosive. Averaged 27.8 points, 15.1 rebounds, 9.6 assists, 4.5 blocks, and 1.1 steals per game. Only one step away from averaging a triple-double per game in a single month. Episode 52. Are there any candidates for this month's Player of the Month? In the league president's office in New York, Stern asked Vice President Adam Silver. There are several. Recently, the league's players have played very well. In terms of team record and data stability, Tim Duncan of the Spurs is the best candidate. However, the data of the other two people are really explosive. Silver used the word explosive. Oh? Stern was a little interested. He just asked casually today. Stern doesn't pay much attention to these awards in the season. It's usually handled by Silver. Kobe, averaging 39.5 points in January. 7 consecutive games of 50+. Silver said Kobe's name. Kobe, I can think of that. The Lakers have a lot of injuries, and Kobe is also letting go. Such performance is what the fans like. Stern nodded. Kobe's name did not surprise him. If Kobe hadn't been because of that incident a few years ago, he would be the face of the league. Stern might not be in a hurry to support James. Over the years, Stern's star-making movement has not been without failures. The Jordan successor plan of the year was completely bankrupt. Who would have thought that Anthony Hardaway and Grant Hill were so fragile? As Iverson was born in the streets and his style was too hip-hop, he was always suppressed by Stern. Kobe started to support him very early, but next to O'Neal, Kobe could hardly be the main player. After all, a team's second player can never be promoted to the first player in the league. After that, Kobe got into trouble. Carter and McGrady were both praised by Stern. But these two cousins are a little bit different. Stern had to start over and choose from the 0-3 generation. What about the other person? Stern asked casually. Wang Ke, averaging 27.8 points, 15.1 rebounds, and 9.6 assists per game. Almost averaging a triple-double. There was also a hint of shock in Xiaohua's tone. Averaging a triple-double, this is a heaven-defying data that has not appeared in the league for a long time, even if it is only 1 month. The point is, Wang Ke is a center. It is a bit too inconsistent for a center to play a triple-double. It's the Chinese Wang Ke. Stern almost thought he heard it wrong. Is the triple-double so worthless now? How can he remember that many players can't get a triple-double in their entire careers? How did he, a center, play it? Stern couldn't help asking. Of course it's by the unstoppable breakthrough. Wang Ke has been making more breakthroughs recently. In the last game, he scored 15 assists by breakthroughs. This also set a new record for Wang Ke's career single-game assists. In the Longhua broadcasting room, Zhang Weiping said with a smile. For many Longhua fans, this game that is about to start is a heavyweight game that they are looking forward to. Wang Ke versus Kobe. We have a lot of Kobe fans, and the number of Wang Ke's fans has also increased a lot recently. Another point is that the two best players in January are Wang Ke and Kobe. This last matchup in January may determine who will win the Player of the Month in January, Wang Ke or Kobe. Their data in January is really exaggerated. Su-kun on the side took over the conversation and said with a smile. This game was held at the Lakers' home court, the Staples Center. The two teams had already met once at the beginning of this season, and the Wang Ke incident occurred. Karen Butler was KO'd by Wang Ke in a bar. This led to a series of reactions from all parties. The final result can be said to be a complete victory for the Bobcats. Nothing happened. Wang Ke also got the opportunity to return to Dragon Country. The Lakers can be said to have suffered a disastrous defeat. A large amount of resources were mobilized, but in the end it was useless. The Lakers' record also plummeted. Even though Kobe fought for a month, he could only lead the Lakers to hover on the edge of the top 8 in the West. Who made the competition in the West even greater? So, before the game started, the gunpowder smell had already appeared. Kobe came to Wang Ke and gave him a 1-minute death stare. Wang Ke thought Kobe was childish. But then Wang Ke also found that he seemed to be the first Mesozoic in the league. And the first person of the new generation are all offended. The game is about to start. Both teams are not in full form and have different degrees of injuries. Karen Butler of the Lakers has not recovered from his injury, and Odom can't play in this game either. The Lakers' new iron triangle only has Kobe left. They can only rely on Kobe alone, there is no other way to go. On the Bobcats side, Primoz Brezek and Rod Strickland will not play. However, Gerald Wallace can play normally, which makes the Bobcats' situation look a little better. Kobe's recent offensive firepower is very fierce. If we want to win this game, we must limit Kobe. On the Bobcats bench, Bernie Bickerstaff was making the final tactical deployment. But he soon realized that he had just said nonsense. Because the Bobcats simply don't have a player who can limit Kobe. Leave the inside to me. Just do your best to defend the outside. Wang Ke said. At this time, Kobe is in a period of transition and expansion of his arsenal. The proportion of low-post offense close to the basket has begun to increase. Cooperating with Odom to empty the inside for Kobe, the completion rate is very high. However, Odom cannot play in this game, and the Lakers' inside line cannot be empty. Wang Ke is guarding in the inside, and Kobe's offense close to the basket will be half useless. Of course, Kobe, who has entered the zone almost every game recently, is also very accurate in mid-range and long-range shots. The long two-pointer on the three-point line has almost a historical hit rate. Not to mention, the old-school outside superstars like to shoot the long two-pointer that seems to have a very low cost-effectiveness. The reason lies in the position of the defensive players. The three-pointer and the inside line are naturally the areas that will be heavily defended. And the long two-pointer after passing the defensive player in one step is the area with the least defensive interference. Because the inside defense can't reach such a high position. And even if the defense is provided, the inside will be empty. At this time, whether the ball holder continues to break into the inside or passes the ball to the teammate who cuts inside, it is an easy chance to score. It can only be like this. But they have Kobe, we have Wang Ke. Even if Wang Ke and Kobe are swapped, we still have Gerald. Bernie Bickerstaff patted Gerald Wallace on the shoulder and said with a smile. Gerald Wallace suddenly felt that the burden on him was much heavier. Make sure to complete the task. Episode 53. Kobe looked particularly fierce at the beginning. After Wang Ke won the jump ball, Gerald Wallace passed the ball to Wang Ke in the paint, but Kobe intercepted it with a gambling interception. Then Kobe was so far ahead that he dunked the ball, despite Gerald Wallace's pursuit. 2 o'clock. Kobe opened the scoring for the Lakers in an explosive way at the beginning. Kobe. 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 MVP. 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 In the audience, the fans of the Lakers have already started to make a fuss. This season, Kobe has become their only comfort. The Lakers' record seems to be difficult to improve. And Kobe's amazing performance is the motivation for them to come to the scene to watch the game. It's no wonder that bus chose to keep Kobe when Kobe got angry several times. Because Kobe can bring attendance to the Staples Center. Even if the Lakers win the championship, isn't it for making more money? Hold on. Don't rush. Wang Ke shouted to his teammates. Gerald Wallace's desperate pursuit just now also demonstrated the Bobcats' fighting spirit. Understood. The other players of the Bobcats nodded. Brevin Knight slowly controlled the ball across half court, and then passed the ball to Gerald Wallace again. Kobe began to cruise, obviously wanting to repeat the old trick. As long as Wang Ke's receiving the ball is restricted, the Bobcats' offense will not be able to proceed smoothly. Wang Ke signaled to Gerald Wallace with his eyes. Gerald Wallace quickly passed the ball back to Brevin Knight, and Brevin Knight raised his hand and threw a three-pointer. Swish. The hard training off the court has worked. Brevin Knight's three-pointer shot was very decisive and hit steadily. Yes. The players of the Bobcats almost waved their arms at the same time. Well done. 3:2. The momentum of the Bobcats at the beginning was not at all weak. Brevin Knight was even more excited because he could finally contribute to the team. As long as he could make 2 3-pointers like this in every game, his tactical significance on the court would be enough. Leave the rest to Wang Ke. This time, Brevin Knight obviously completed half of his KPI at the beginning. Throw it when you have a chance. Don't think about whether it goes in or not, I'll get the rebound. Wang Ke and Brevin Knight bumped their fists and said with a smile. Understood. Boss. Brevin Knight blurted out boss and then laughed happily. He found his position in the team. Thinking of the conflict between him and Wang Ke when he first arrived at the team, Brevin Knight felt that this was no fight, no acquaintance. Wang Ke also smiled, and then took a deep breath. The trust of his teammates was heavy. Kobe's face was expressionless. After Lakers point guard Chucky Atkins dribbled across half court, he quickly passed the ball to Kobe. The ball was a little hot. After Kobe received the ball, Gerald Wallace quickly came over to defend. In this game, Gerald Wallace had to take the responsibility of defending Kobe on the outside. This is also the responsibility he should take as the second in the team. It's difficult, but it must be done. Kobe's continuous tentative steps made Gerald Wallace's footsteps subconsciously take a step back. With a barely perceptible smile on the corner of his mouth, Kobe pulled up and threw it. Top shot three-pointer. Swish. The sound of the basketball entering the net sounded. It's so arrogant. Answer. Ball. F***K. Gerald Wallace cursed in a low voice. Kobe's top shot made him a little angry. Although he just took a small step back, he was still very quick to jump up and interfere. However, Kobe ignored the interference. 5:3. The Lakers continued to seize the advantage in points. The Bobcats attack. Wang Ke continued to be restricted from receiving the ball in the interior, and Gerald Wallace shot one himself facing Kobe. Bang! It didn't go in. But the rebound is mine. With a low shout, Wang Ke jumped up from the ground under the basket and grabbed the rebound strongly. Then, without waiting to land, he smashed the ball directly into the basket. Bang! Grab the rebound and dunk, 3 consecutive dunks with one click. 5:5. The two sides are tied. Kobe looked at the Lakers' inside players and frowned, but didn't say anything. No one can be relied on. You can only rely on yourself. Kobe held the jersey in front of his chest directly in his mouth. Shortly after the start of the game, Kobe showed his bloodthirsty ruthlessness. Wang Ke looked at Kobe holding the jersey and sucking the sweat inside, which was really incomprehensible. The sweat on the jersey was not only Kobe's own. He really had the guts to eat it. He was a ruthless man. The Lakers attacked, and Kobe continued to attack with the ball. He no longer trusted any teammates. Another series of tentative steps, this time Kobe chose to force a breakthrough. Gerald Wallace made a small mistake in defense again, allowing Kobe to pass by in one step. Damn it! Gerald Wallace did not complain with his hands on his hips, but quickly chased after him. This time, Kobe actually wanted to directly challenge the restricted area guarded by Wang Ke. One step inside the free throw line, Kobe took 3 steps. Wang Ke quickly moved sideways to maintain the best position between him and Kobe. His 2 long arms had already been raised high, which could cause the greatest interference to Kobe. When facing Kobe, you can never jump at will, because he has too many fake moves. It can even be said that Kobe is the best inside player with dream footwork after dream. Although Kobe is a shooting guard instead of a center. One more step. Kobe jumped. At the moment of jumping, Kobe was not facing the basket, but he turned 180 degrees in midair. Who? Kobe also shouted at this time, showing his peerless waist. Go in. Get down. Two voices sounded at the same time. Kobe still underestimated Wang Ke's arm span and jumping ability. He once dunked in front of Yao Ming in the same way. But it doesn't mean that he can dunk in front of Wang Ke. Wang Ke is the same height as Yao Ming, but his overall physical talent is a level stronger than Yao Ming. Snap. Wang Ke pressed the basketball accurately. Kobe felt a huge force coming. He had underestimated Wang Ke's strength. Ah! Kobe yelled, but he still couldn't control the basketball in his hand. Bang! Kobe missed the dunk. The basketball was pressed on the backboard by Wang Ke, and then bounced down, finally hitting Kobe's knee and going out of the baseline. The Bobcats have the ball. Kobe looked up at Wang Ke, and at this moment, he felt that Wang Ke was so tall. It was like an insurmountable mountain, standing in front of him. Remember. No flying here. Don't do it again. Episode 54. Kobe threw the ball directly in the face of the double team. Great shot. This is a very reasonable play. Wang Ke. Almost 3 steps from the three-point line. Jump up. Do you want to dunk? Pass. Gerald Wallace slipped to the baseline and dunked. It's Kobe again. A strong shot from outside the three-point line. Still scored. Kobe entered the zone again. Wang Ke's blood cap is coming. Go to the front court again. Brevin Knight's three-pointer didn't work. Wang Ke's rebound. Pass it out again. Brevin Knight continued to throw it. This time it worked. Beautiful. In the Dragon Country broadcast room, Zhang Weiping and Su Kun's commentary turned into a symphony. Zhang Weiping subconsciously transformed into Weiping Bryant, and Su Kun could only catch Wang Ke and shout 666, otherwise she couldn't pull him back. Fortunately, Wang Ke is now a US citizen like Kobe, so it can't be said that Coach Zhang's commentary is too biased. Bang! On the court, Kobe rarely broke into the inside and dunked with Wang Ke's help. However, Kobe's face did not have much happy expression at this time. The score on the scoreboard hurt Kobe's nerves a little. The third quarter was almost over, and the Lakers were 10 points behind the Bobcats at home with 79-89. The shouts of the fans at the Staples Center were also weakened a lot. Kobe had already scored 55 points at this time. But it seemed that it was not enough. Unable to lead the Lakers to take the lead. To be fair, Kobe had already shot accurately in this game. With the inside offense seriously blocked, Kobe could only increase the number of shots on the outside. 6 of 10 shots from beyond the three-point line was already Kobe's super performance. And the more this was the case, the more Kobe felt a little unacceptable on the scoreboard at this time. A cruel fact was placed in front of Kobe: he alone could not save the Lakers. Kobe's eyes swept across the faces of his teammates, one by one. Everyone's face was a little dull. With Kobe's offense and defense, they seemed to be unable to do anything else except running back and forth. Many times, some Lakers players took the initiative and wanted to go forward to screen for Kobe, but were scolded by Kobe. This made them even more at a loss. On the other hand, the Bobcats players were fully involved under the leadership of Wang Ke. This can be seen clearly from the expressions of the players on both sides. We are already so strong. How can we lead by 10 points when Kobe scored 55 points? On the Bobcats bench, head coach Bernie Bickerstaff also made a joke. Kobe's scoring crit rate is indeed a bit bluffing, but so what? We have Wang Ke. Bernie Bickerstaff smiled and glanced at Wang Ke, feeling the energy and vitality he brought to the team. Wang Ke has been doing what the team leader should do, and he has done it very well. The Lakers this season are not a strong team, and it is not surprising that the Bobcats won. Some of the positive things shown in this game are what Bernie Bickerstaff cares about the most. In the fourth quarter, Kobe continued to swing for 3 minutes, and finally showed a trace of dejection. Can't swing anymore. After missing 2 shots from outside the three-point line, the Bobcats have already widened the gap to 15 points. Is 6 of 12 three-pointers bad? Not bad at all. On the contrary, a 50% three-point shooting rate is already enough to go against the sky. But for Kobe, it is not enough. He seems to have to shoot more than 80% to save this Lakers team. But, is this possible? 117:100. The Bobcats won a big victory in the last game of January. Wang Ke once again scored a triple-double, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, and 4 blocks. Kobe on the opposite side scored 62 points. In terms of scoring, Kobe is naturally stronger. However, he cannot bring victory to the team. Wang. Wait. I will fight back. You ruined my season. After the game, Kobe walked in front of Wang Ke again and said something harsh. This is not like your style. It's boring to blame me. Wang Ke smiled faintly. He knew that Kobe was referring to Karen Butler's injury. But if we really want to argue, the hard power of other players on the Lakers is still stronger than that of the Bobcats. Odom has the strength of the second in command. There are many reasons for the Lakers' predicament, but Kobe's paranoia is playing style is one of them. Thinking of this, Wang Ke also had a sense of accomplishment in his heart. He led the Bobcats well. However, it is only successful if they finally make it to the playoffs. Stay steady and don't wave. Don't drift. Kobe walked away depressed. He was a little confused. It turns out that it is not that he can solve the problem by fighting stubbornly. After the game, the discussion about Wang Ke and Kobe suddenly increased. Who of the two is the better cornerstone of the team has aroused heated discussions among the media and fans. The Lakers' poor record has caused Kobe to be questioned, and many fans are inclined to choose Wang Ke. Because under the same conditions, Wang Ke's record of leading the team is better. But Kobe's overly explosive scoring performance and unsolvable offensive ability have added a lot of impression points to him. It makes people feel that the Lakers' poor record is due to his teammates, not Kobe's problem. Then someone who knows about football gave the answer that most fans agree with. Wang Ke can guarantee the lower limit of a team. And Kobe can raise the upper limit of a team. If a weak team wants to make the playoffs, just choose Wang Ke without thinking. The offensive and defensive bonus brought by Wang Ke is too great. But if a strong team wants to win the championship, it still has to choose Kobe. For Wang Ke, the answer is not important. What's important is that as a rookie, Wang Ke is compared with the stars. With 3 crowns in hand, consecutive All-Stars, and consecutive double-team honors, even if Kobe can't be called a superstar at this time, he is definitely a star. And Wang Ke is still superior in many aspects, compared with Kobe. I don't know who is embarrassed. 2 days later, the official certification of the league added fuel to this wave of hot discussions. The Eastern Conference Best of the Month award, in January, belongs to Wang Ke. Wang Ke beat James and won this award. This is also the first time that Wang Ke has won the Player of the Month in his career, another milestone. The Western Conference Player of the Month was not Kobe or Duncan, but Weber. It is hard to say whether the duel 2 days ago had an impact on the ownership of this award. But the fact is, the winner is the king and takes the honor. President. I am a little worried. If Wang Ke grows up completely and is naturalized by Longwa, the strength of Longwa team will be very strong. What if the US team fails again in the Olympics? New York, at the league headquarters, while walking and chatting with Stern, Xiaohua raised his concerns. Stern's internationalization strategy of the league is fine in the general direction, but it is not without some disadvantages. More and more international players and stars have emerged, and local American stars are gradually no longer occupying an absolute advantage. This is particularly evident in the center position. After O'Neal, only Yao Ming and Wang Ke can carry the center's banner. Once Wang Ke completes naturalization and becomes a Dragon Country player, then in the center position, the US local players can no longer compete with the Dragon Country players. In the previous life, more than a decade later, even in the regular season MVP award, there can no longer be a US local player. Strictly speaking, Embiid is an international player. Dwight looks good, we can give him a good boost. There are still 3 years, he should be able to grow up. We will send the strongest lineup to the 2008 Olympics, and we shouldn't miss it. After all, we are not the US Basketball Association, why do we care so much? Focus on making money. Stern smiled faintly. After Wang Ke officially becomes a Dragon Country player, Stern is ready to take a 2-pronged approach to make a big harvest in the Dragon Country market. Unlike Xiaohua's worries, Stern feels that the internationalization steps are not big enough. So far, no international player has won the regular season MVP in the league. Stern thinks it's time to give more sweetness. You get what you give. Episode 55. Player of the Month. Player of the Week also won. Wang. I really hope you can be selected for this All-Star game. Then you will have the best New Year's gift when the Dragon Country New Year comes. In the small house, Claudia was carefully cutting out the news from the newspaper and pasting it on the big notebook. After winning the Eastern Conference Player of the Month in January, Wang Ke continued his strong performance on the court. The Player of the Week is also coming soon. The Bobcats have also won 5 consecutive games recently. The ranking in the Eastern Conference has risen to 6th. It seems that making the playoffs has become very promising. I hope not to be selected. In that case, I can have a week to rest. I can also spend more time with you. Wang Ke said with a smile. Wang Ke really didn't care about being selected for the All-Star game this time. Because even if he was selected, there were other factors in it, and it was not really Wang Ke's selection based on his heart power. After all, Wang Ke can't catch up with Ben and O'Neal in terms of votes. That's true. But I still hope you can be selected, because the meaning is different. This is what you deserve for your performance on the court. Claudia thought about it and still felt that it was good for Wang Ke to be selected. You speak better and better. Wang Ke felt that Claudia was becoming more and more lively. Remembering that at the beginning, she always lowered her head in front of him and looked at her toes. Claudia smiled and didn't say anything. After pasting the big book, Claudia started to make paper cuts again, with a blessing character on it. After entering February, the Dragon Country New Year is coming soon. Wang Ke spent time here with his parents when he was still very young. Later, the conditions at home became worse and worse, and his parents were no longer in the mood to go. Claudia started preparing early this time, and she was also thoughtful. All-Star Weekend. Wang Ke walked to the window and looked into the distance. It was snowing again. The league officials had approached Wang Ke before and wanted to invite him to participate in the three-point contest and the dunk contest. But Wang Ke refused them all. Wang Ke was not in a good mood. While various honors came one after another, Wang Ke was shouldering huge responsibilities and pressure. It was still very hard to carry the team forward alone. Wang Ke did not dare to stop or relax. Because once he relaxed, the Bobcats would definitely not be able to hold on, and it would be easy to collapse. Wang Ke felt that this was still saving his life for himself. If he could lead this weak Bobcats team into the playoffs this season, Wang Ke's status and influence in the league would be greatly improved. Hold on for a season, and the road ahead would be easier. Yu Feihong was waiting for the flight at Longwood Jingqing Airport. Hello? Dad. Can you speak in a nicer tone? Do you have to yell every time you call? There is a reason why I don't go back. I know it's the Chinese New Year. I'm going to the United States. Why go to the United States? What do you think? My cousin is alone in the United States. I guess he hasn't celebrated the Spring Festival for many years. I'm going to see him. You agree now? Why do I feel like you already treat him as your son? Yu Feihong hung up the phone and muttered. After the filming of The Emperor of Ming Dynasty was completed, Yu Feihong still didn't want to go home. The gap between her and her parents has existed since she was admitted to Beijing Film Academy. It has not been eliminated until now. Even as she gets older, the gap is getting bigger and bigger. The apparent reason this time is to go to the United States to see Wang Ke. But Yu Feihong couldn't tell in her heart whether she was looking for a reason not to go home for the Chinese New Year. Whether you have money or not, go home for the Chinese New Year. This song, which sounds a bit vulgar, sounded in the airport, but it is very sincere. Yu Feihong sighed. As soon as she said she was going to the United States to see Wang Ke, her parents immediately agreed and gave her a lot of instructions. Yu Feihong thought that her parents had failed to practice one account, so they took over another account and prepared to practice again. On February 8th, the new year of Dragon Country arrived. Xiao Ke. Congratulations. We can get together in a week. Happy New Year. In the morning, Wang Ke received a call from Yao Ming. Just an hour ago, the league officially announced the list of this all-star game. Wang Ke was on the list. In terms of votes, Wang Ke still has a big gap with Big Ben and O'Neal. This should be because of Sterling. Yes, I have chosen him. Yao Ming has become the vote king of this all-star game with nearly 3 million votes. From the voice on the phone, it can be heard that Yao Ming seems very excited. In the previous 2 seasons, Yao Ming's selection for the all-star game has always been questioned. And this time, no one questioned Yao Ming's selection for the all-star game. Yao Ming also has many fans in the United States. In fact, based on the votes of Dragon fans alone, Yao Ming's votes are definitely more than 3 million. Look down on the number of Dragon fans. This is because the official league controls the number of votes. Maybe the ranking of the votes is roughly true, but the actual number of votes is definitely not true. Otherwise, Yao Ming's votes every time would far exceed those of American stars. There are really many Dragon people. Wouldn't it be easy to vote for 10 million? All-star voting is not just 1 vote per person. But during the voting period, you can vote every day. There will be a few days set as double vote days, that is, 1 vote cast on these days will count as 2 votes. This all-star game will usher in the first Dragon Country Derby. Coincidentally, Wang Ke and Yao Ming are in the East and West. In the regular season, because Wang Ke did not play in the last incident, the Dragon Country Derby has not happened yet. This undoubtedly brings another gimmick to the all-star game. After the all-star votes were announced, the league officials began to make a fuss about the Dragon Country Derby and began to build momentum in this regard. It is true that Wang Ke has not yet changed his nationality to Dragon Country, but the momentum has begun. At the same time in Dragon Country, under the above meaning, the news that Wang Ke is about to be naturalized by Dragon Country has officially appeared in front of everyone. The all-star game is still very popular in Dragon Country, so the publicity of Dragon Country is also focused on the upcoming all-star game. Everything is going according to plan. Happy New Year! Wang Ke laughed. He really made it to the All-Stars. Anyway, this is also something worth being happy about. However, Wang Ke is not going to participate in the rookie game. Wang Ke needs some rest, this is not just talk. Then Wang Ke thought about it and called Wang Zhizhi again. Xiao Ke. Happy New Year. Deo just called me, and I was going to call you, and you called me. Wang Zhizhi's voice also sounded very happy. His future path finally became clear, so he is no longer confused. Maybe next Spring Festival, he can reunite with his family and have a New Year's Eve dinner. Wang Zhizhi is ready for redemption. Episode 56. The Dragon Country Spring Festival has no meaning in the United States. For Americans, this is just an ordinary day. For Charlotte fans, the team will have a big battle at home tonight. The Western powerhouse Spurs is visiting. This season, the Spurs continue to maintain stability. The strength of GDP has appeared in front of everyone. But even so, the Spurs still failed to occupy the first place in the West, but ranked second in the West. The first place in the West was occupied by the Suns. This season Nash came to the Suns and became the Son of the Wind. D'Antoni's running and gunning officially debuted. For a while, the Suns swept the league and showed their offensive power. Whether it was the experienced Spurs, the iron-blooded defensive Pistons, or the Wade plus O'Neal Heat, they were all defeated by the Suns' running and gunning. This made many media and fans feel that this league is going to change. Is it time to enter the offensive era? The Suns' running and gunning also attracts countless fans. Because the defensive battles in the league in the past few seasons have made fans a little tired. No one wants to see both teams turn into blacksmiths at the same time, hammering the basket one by one. What fans want to see is a lively scene after all. Most fans can't understand the exquisite defensive deployment and targeting. They don't want to know so much. From their perspective, only the players have become very watery and can't score a goal. The Bobcats have not played against the Suns this season. Wang Ke feels that they may not be able to withstand the impact of the Suns' running and gunning. Outside the Charlotte arena, fans arrived in 2s and 3s and walked into the stadium. The attendance rate of the Charlotte arena has been very impressive this season. Maintaining around 80%, this is already a very good attendance rate in the league. The Bobcats' iron-blooded style and their consistent ranking in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference, which is the playoff zone, have kept fans enthusiastic about supporting the team. Hello. Can I ask if I can still buy tickets now? Outside the stadium, an Oriental-faced woman came here in a hurry, and then found that she had not bought tickets in advance. This woman is Yu Feihong. She flew to New York this morning, and then flew to Charlotte in the afternoon. Yu Feihong studied in the United States for 3 years 10 years ago, so she is not unfamiliar with this place. She has also been to the city of Charlotte, and it was here that she met her aunt, Yu Rui. But after Yu Feihong came to Charlotte, she found a problem. How can she contact Wang Ke? She doesn't have Wang Ke's contact information. This is very embarrassing. Sometimes, Yu Feihong always likes to make decisions first, and then think about how to solve them when she encounters difficulties. Fortunately, Yu Feihong had a good brain and thought that it was always right to find Wang Ke at the Charlotte Arena, which is the home of the Bobcats. The tickets should still be available, but there are probably no good seats. The tickets here are still very popular, it's best to buy them in advance next time. A fan enthusiastically pointed out the ticket window for Yu Feihong. Yu Feihong had no problem communicating in English, so the communication was smooth. Oh. Thank you. Yu Feihong rushed to the ticket office with her suitcase. Ah. Sorry. Yu Feihong ran too fast and accidentally bumped into someone. Fuck. You don't have eyes. Sister, are you okay? Senior roared in dissatisfaction and hurried to help Claudia. Today is the Dragon Country Spring Festival, which is a special day for Wang Ke, so the brother and sister also decided to come to the scene to watch the game. Brother, I'm fine. She is. When Claudia saw Yu Feihong's face, she was stunned. It seems so. You. Who are you two, Wang Ke? Xinear also saw Yu Feihong's appearance clearly at this time. Oriental faces look different. And Claudia and Xinear are very familiar with Wang Ke's parents. The two families have been neighbors for 10 years. Claudia had seen the photo before, which was a photo of Yu Feihong and Wang Ke's mother. You know Wang Ke? Yu Feihong was surprised. I am Wang Ke's cousin. Yu Feihong seemed to realize something. Being able to infer that she is related to Wang Ke by seeing her own appearance means that she is very close to Wang Ke. She even has a deep relationship with her aunt, Yu Rui. Ah. Claudia didn't know what she remembered and blushed. Cousin, sister. That's my in-laws. Sorry, I was a little loud just now. Senior scratched his head embarrassedly. After staying in the lower-class community for a long time, Senior has a bandit vibe and swears all the time. Speaking of which, Senior is Claudia's brother, and now he meets Wang Ke's cousin, so they are in-laws of equal generation. You are? Yu Feihong smiled and asked curiously. Ahem. She, Claudia, my sister, Wang Ke's wife. Yeah. Fiancé, the wedding hasn't been officially held yet. Senior coughed lightly and told the truth. Brother. Claudia pulled Senior's sleeve, her face flushed, and she lowered her head again. Ah? Yu Feihong got an answer she had never expected. Yu Feihong followed Claudia and Senior into the stadium and sat in the first row. The first row of seats at each team's home stadium is reserved for the relatives and friends of the team's players, especially the core players. Claudia and Senior naturally had first row tickets this time. After Senior told the stadium staff, Yu Feihong quickly got a first row ticket. The Oriental face like Wang Ke played a role at this moment. The staff did not doubt the relationship between Yu Feihong and Wang Ke. Because if you look closely, Yu Feihong and Wang Ke look a bit alike. Of course, it may also be because Americans are face-blind to dragons. The atmosphere is so warm. Yu Feihong, who appeared in the stadium for the first time to watch a game, had a very novel experience. The atmosphere at our home stadium is good. Senior chuckled. As a member of the lower-class community, he can sit in the first row to watch the game at the Charlotte Arena. This sense of vanity makes Senior feel a little satisfied. Come out. Come out. Senior pointed to the players' passage. Players from both sides walked onto the court to warm up. Wang. You're going to be tested tonight. Although Tim's registered position is power forward, he basically plays center. Most of the time you have to play against him directly. His playing style is different from Shaq's. Wang Ke fell to the end and was communicating with head coach Bernie Bickerstaff. After chatting for a while, Wang Ke also took the pass from his teammates and started to try a few three-pointers. Then, Wang Ke swept towards the front row of the audience, ready to say hello to Claudia. Then, Wang Ke saw a figure. Who is that? Oh my god. No way. Episode 57. So tall. This is too tall. Yu Feihong didn't expect that her first reaction to seeing Wang Ke would be this. Both of them seemed to be in embarrassment at the same time, not knowing whether to greet or say something. Yu Feihong and himself are relatives, which Wang Ke is very clear about. However, Wang Ke didn't expect this person to be Yu Feihong. In the previous life, Yu Feihong was a female star that Wang Ke admired very much. Very literary and intellectual. In this life, the two have become relatives. The world is really wonderful. Wang Ke waved to the front row of the audience, not knowing whether he was greeting Claudia or Yu Feihong. Claudia and Yu Feihong both waved back at the same time. We have never met before. I only met my aunt 10 years ago. Yu Feihong narrated to Claudia beside him. Wang Ke, on the other hand, collected his thoughts and continued to warm up on the court. These things are all small matters. Things on the court are big matters for Wang Ke. The opponent of the Bobcats in this game is the Spurs. The Spurs with GDP. Wang Ke has just been selected for the All-Star game, and he is playing at home, so he naturally hopes to bring a victory to the fans. Moreover, today is the New Year's Eve of Dragon Country. After the game, you can have a good New Year's Eve dinner. Thinking of this, Wang Ke subconsciously glanced at Yu Feihong again. Is she here for this? If so, it makes Wang Ke feel a little warm. Rich or poor, go home for the new year. Who doesn't want to have a New Year's Eve dinner with their loved ones? Wang Ke hasn't eaten it for a long time. This year, he can eat it. He has Claudia. Now there is another cousin. The game will start soon. The starting players of both sides walked onto the court. The Spurs starters are Reza Nestorovic, Duncan, Bowen, Ginobili, and Tony Parker. Ginobili has been the starting shooting guard for the Spurs this season. This is actually rare throughout his career. In most seasons, Ginobili appears as the sixth substitute. Regardless of starting or substitute, Ginobili's playing style and average data have not changed much. So, if you really want to say that Ginobili can be compared with the four major shooting guards, it is also worth discussing. Because Ginobili's critical hit rate is fine, but the output of a whole game is not very high. As a shooting guard, he mainly does scoring work when he appears, but his average score has never been above 20. Even Carter, who is getting more and more Buddhist in the middle and late stages, it is still easy to average 20 points per game. This cannot be explained by Popovich limiting Ginobili's scoring. In fact, Popovich basically indulged Ginobili to play XJB on the court. A more accurate statement is that Ginobili's physical fitness and physical confrontation ability cannot support him to play a whole high-quality game. This is similar to Yao Ming. Wang Ke looked at GDP and scattered his thoughts. Yu Feihong's arrival made Wang Ke's memories of his previous life float, and he also remembered a lot of things. The Bobcat starters, Wang Ke, Primoz Brezic, Gerald Wallace, Jason Kapono, and Brevin Knight. After experiencing a wave of injuries, the Bobcats lineup finally became complete in this game. This is a good thing. During the All-Star weekend, in addition to Wang Ke, other players on the Bobcats can also get about a week of rest. This can be a good way to store energy for the second half of the regular season. Wang Ke and Reza Nestorovic came to the center circle and prepared for a jump ball. Duncan still plays the role of a pseudo-power forward. In the opening jump ball, he will never admit that he is a center. Let the center do the jump ball. The opening jump ball of the league game is not limited to the position of the candidate, and the point guard can also participate in the jump ball. But generally speaking, the center is the tallest in the team, so it has long been the default for the center to jump. Unless you really want to get the upper hand, you will let the players with better jumping ability in other positions jump. There is no suspense that Wang Ke won the jump ball. At the moment of the opening jump ball, Wang Ke was already the only one who wanted to win. Those with better jumping ability than Wang Ke are not as high as Wang Ke. Those with similar height to Wang Ke are not as good as Wang Ke in jumping. There is no comparison. After Brevin Knight passed the half court, he handed the ball to Gerald Wallace, and he stood outside the three-point line at the top of the arc, ready to receive the ball and the work of fixed-point three-pointers. And Wang Ke quickly received the pass in the paint. The Bobcats' offensive tactical coordination has become very skillful. Yu Feihong, who was in the front row of the audience, sat up subconsciously. The feeling of watching the game live and watching the live game is completely different. The perspective is also different. Yu Feihong was actually a little nervous at this time. Wang Ke should be able to score. Of course. Bang. Wang Ke knocked away Reza Nestorovic, and then turned around and dunked. So easy. After more than half a season, Wang Ke's low post attack in the paint has been infinitely improved. Unless facing double teaming, except for O'Neal and Yao Ming, other centers cannot defend Wang Ke 1v1. Because other people's tonnage and strength are not enough, no matter how good their defensive awareness and skills are, they can't play any role in front of Wang Ke. One force defeats 10 skills. It's just that simple. And O'Neal and Yao Ming don't need to have good defensive skills, just standing there can make Wang Ke's inside attack not smooth. On the court, talent is king after all. Physical talent is especially important. 2 o'clock. Wang Ke got the first blood. Wow. Yu Feihong subconsciously exclaimed, but didn't know how to describe it in words. Claudia on the side smiled. This is how it was to watch a game live for the first time. The sensory impact is completely different. The Spurs attack. Duncan looked at Wang Ke and scratched his head. He was considering whether to double-team Wang Ke in the next round. Just now, Duncan had already analyzed in his brain that he couldn't defend Wang Ke alone. All he could do was to try to keep Wang Ke away from the basket by blocking. Tony Parker passed the half-court with the ball. Reza Nestorovic went directly to the three-point line for a pick and roll. Duncan pulled to the mid-range, taking Primoz Brezic away from the inside. The Bobcats inside was emptied to a certain extent. Tony Parker quickly got rid of Brevin Knight's defense with the help of Reza Nestorovic's pick and roll. Wang Ke made a defensive choice, letting go of Reza Nestorovic and going to defend Tony Parker. Tony Parker started spinning a little top one step inside the free throw line. And Wang Ke raised his arms and remained unmoved. Bang! Under huge interference, Tony Parker's throw ended in irons. Wang Ke turned around and took the rebound. This won't work. Tim. You pick and roll next round. Tony Parker shouted. Wang Ke's defensive power is quite strong. Episode 58. Popovich on the sidelines watched Wang Ke's strong performance on both offense and defense, and his eyes lit up. After David Robinson retired, Popovich has begun to innovate tactics. But in fact, what he likes most is the traditional Twin Towers. Do you think there will be a chance to bring Wang Ke to the Spurs in the future? By then, the Twin Towers formed by Wang Ke and Duncan will be invincible? Popovich was a little excited. The game continued, and the Bobcats attacked. Wang Ke received the ball in the paint again, but the defensive pressure he faced this time suddenly increased. Duncan made an independent judgment on the court and decided to double-team Wang Ke immediately. Popovich has very high requirements for the operation of the Spurs' overall tactical system. From the previous Twin Towers in the rough interior to the current development towards team basketball, emphasizing more passing and running. However, in terms of tactical details, Popovich did not pick so finely, and still gave the players full freedom on the court. This is very different from those rigid head coaches, such as Larry Brown. And this is also the reason why Popovich can always keep the Spurs in the position of a strong team in the West. He hates three-pointers, but he can embrace three-pointers. At this time, Duncan decided to double-team on the court, and Popovich on the sidelines did not have any objections. Wang Ke quickly received the ball and grabbed it with one hand and raised it above his head. Facing more double teams, Wang Ke naturally developed composure and was no longer at a loss as he was at the beginning. The difficulty for the Bobcats to break Wang Ke's double team is no longer on Wang Ke, but on other players running and receiving the ball. Wang Ke's height and wingspan advantage can pass the ball out. But after passing it out, if the running position of his teammates is too bad, even if they don't make mistakes and lose the ball, it will delay the timing of the attack. For the opponent, it is a successful defense. At this time, Wang Ke shook his wrist and sent the ball to Gerald Wallace, who was actively cutting inside. Gerald Wallace's flying layup was directly shot down by Duncan, who turned around and patted the ball. What a steal! At this moment, Duncan's defensive awareness and ability were undoubtedly demonstrated. Ginobili picked up the basketball and rushed to the front court. A sudden stop outside the three-point line, and a direct pull-up shot. Swish! The crisp sound of the basketball entering the net rang out. Ginobili hit a chase three-pointer. Oh! My God! Don't mention the Bobcats' home fans. Popovich was shocked when he watched from the sidelines. There was no Bobcats defender in front of Ginobili, and he went straight into the inside line for an empty basket. But he chose to make a three-pointer. If this didn't go in, Popovich would probably curse. But it went in like this. This is Ginobili. Well done. Duncan ran over and rubbed Ginobili's hair. Ginobili also touched it and found that a few more hairs had fallen out. He's not far from being bald. Wang. Plan.d. Head coach Bernie Bickerstaff made a gesture to Wang Ke on the sidelines. The Spurs are going big at the start. The Bobcats can't hide their weakness anymore. Let's continue to use big moves. Wang Ke saw Bernie Bickerstaff's gesture and nodded. It can be seen that Bernie Bickerstaff is also a little anxious. Wang Ke thinks that he can actually slow down and play normally. Changing tactics immediately when the opponent double teams is called timely response in a good way. To put it in a bad way, it is actually denying the performance of the Bobcats players just now. Gerald Wallace was just blocked by Duncan, but Wang Ke thinks he won't be blocked every time. Changing tactics immediately like this will make Gerald Wallace a little afraid to cut inside next time, and he will be a little hesitant in his heart. But the head coach has the final say. After Brevin Knight passed the half court, Wang Ke came out directly to receive the ball outside the three-point line. Seeing this scene, Popovich on the sidelines raised his eyebrows. He is not unfamiliar with this scene. David Robinson's peak period had such a tactical design. But after David Robinson's peak, such tactics have become extinct in the league. Because there is no second center who can hold the ball and break through on the outside like David Robinson. Until this season, Wang Ke appeared. Reza Nestorovic followed up, but he was a little nervous at this time. This is beyond his ability. How can a big center go to the outside to defend against face-to-face attacks? Now Reza Nestorovic hopes Duncan can play the role of the team leader and stand up to take on this wave of defense for him. Bang! Wang Ke did not give Reza Nestorovic a chance to think more, and he broke through from the right side directly. Reza Nestorovic's lateral movement was obviously slow, and Wang Ke took a step forward and had already occupied the position advantage. And the strong body and confrontation made Reza Nestorovic's subsequent pursuit seem a bit futile. Near the free throw line, Wang Ke took 3 steps directly. Duncan came to assist and stood in the 3-second zone to make Wang Ke an offensive foul. But Wang Ke showed off a European step and floated directly past Duncan. Bang! Wang Ke grabbed the ball with his right hand and slammed the ball into the basket. At this moment, Wang Ke is comparable to Antetokounmpo +++. Oh my god! Awesome! Wang! 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 After 2 seconds of silence, the Charlotte arena suddenly erupted in strong cheers. Soon, the fans at the scene began to shout Wang Ke's name in unison. At this time, Claudia, Sr. and Yu Feihong in the front row of the audience were all excited to follow the shouting. The hot atmosphere infected everyone. Yu Feihong, who always seemed quiet and intellectual, had a completely different feeling at this moment. She understood why so many people like basketball. She also seemed to understand why her aunt insisted on taking the path of basketball. The struggle on the court really makes people excited. Wang Ke's dunk is so beautiful. I think he is creating a new style for center. David Robinson did play like this before, but I think Wang Ke is more flexible in terms of footwork. Wang Ke is like a real small forward at this moment. In the Longwa broadcasting room, Zhang Weiping explained excitedly. We can see that the audience has already stood up and cheered. Eh? There seems to be an oriental face in the front row of the audience. Are Longwa fans here to watch the game? I think he looks familiar. He looks like a star. Su-kun said with a smile. But the word star caught the attention of Longwa fans. Oh my god. She's really a star. Isn't this the Jinghong Fairy? I know, my goddess. Why is she watching the game? Could she be going to see Wang Ke? They can't. Impossible. The age difference between them is more than 10 years. You don't understand this. But it's not only men who like young people. The gossip fire in the hearts of the Dragon Country fans is burning. Episode 59. Dong. 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 Brother Xiaoming. Are you there? It's Chinese New Year, I made some dumplings myself, give them to you to try. Longwa, Hingdian, the crew of the Emperor of Ming Dynasty. The crew of the Emperor of Ming Dynasty has already finished filming, but there are still some shots that need to be reshot. So even though it's Chinese New Year, Huang Xiaoming still didn't leave the crew, showing his professionalism. In this regard, Yu Feihong seemed a little willful and went directly to the United States. Her reshooting shots can only be shot after she comes back. But it's not a big problem. Director Huang Zuchuan knows Yu Feihong's temper and doesn't care. But the other actors in the crew have a lot of complaints. Huang Xiaoming finished today's scenes this morning and is eating a box lunch while watching the game. If he has time, he won't miss Wang Ke's game. In fact, the social circle of actors is very narrow. Either in the crew, or on the way to various activities. They often cannot roll around in society like ordinary people. Of course, how chaotic the crew is, how many unspoken rules there are in the circle, that is another matter. Huang Xiaoming doesn't have any other hobbies. Watching basketball games is a very important spiritual entertainment. Therefore, he is really a fan of Wang Ke. Just like his fans are fans of him. Xiao Jing, come in. Huang Xiaoming opened the door and let Jiang Linjing in. Jiang Linjing is an important supporting role in this drama, playing the role of Empress Ma. There are many rival scenes with Huang Xiaoming, who plays the role of Emperor Jiangwen. Jiang Linjing is not old either, 25 years old this year, 3 years younger than Huang Xiaoming. Huang Xiaoming did not close the door after letting Jiang Linjing in, but opened it as wide as possible. Jiang Linjing glanced at her, and a hint of disappointment appeared in her eyes. Is brother Xiaoming watching the game? I like basketball very much. My dad also likes watching games, and I usually like to watch with him. Can I watch it now? Jiang Linjing was looking for a topic. Sure. Then let's watch it together. Watching a game is more fun when there are more people. Huang Xiaoming smiled and nodded. He was grateful for the food he had eaten. He was really tired of eating boxed lunches, and Huang Xiaoming couldn't resist the temptation of dumplings. Then they saw the figure of Yu Feihong flashing on the screen together. Ah. Isn't that Sister Feihong? There are rumors. Is it true? Jiang Linjing said with a smile. Don't talk nonsense. The tall player on the court is my idol, Sister Yu's brother. Huang Xiaoming had a kind smile on his face, but his tone seemed a little harsh. The people in the crew have been speculating about what Yu Feihong did in the United States recently. Due to Yu Feihong's choice, her resources in the circle have been greatly reduced, and many people have seen it. Therefore, they have lost their original awe and respect for Yu Feihong. As a third or fourth tier actor, Jiang Linjing dared to make some comments about Yu Feihong. However, Huang Xiaoming, who has really seen big scenes, knows that a lean camel is bigger than a horse. Take the play The Emperor of Ming Dynasty for example. Yu Feihong is definitely the heroine. And the supporting roles include Bao Guoan, Shen Junyi, Song Chuanli, and other old actors who are very important in the circle. This is not a resource that a third or fourth tier actor can have. After all, you haven't experienced a real beating. Huang Xiaoming looked at Jiang Linjing and smiled faintly in his heart. It is rumored that a few years ago, Huang Xiaoming and Tong Dawei competed for favor, together, and staged a snow sword. That's a real big scene. Fortunately, Huang Xiaoming has now made it. After this drama is over, he will seamlessly join the crew of The Return of the Condor Heroes. These days, being able to star in Mr. Jin's drama basically means becoming a big hit. Huang Xiaoming knew that he could finally turn things around. Sister Feihong's brother. Jiang Linjing looked at Wang Ke on the screen, her eyes flickering, not knowing what she was thinking. On the court, the confrontation became more and more intense. Wang Ke soon started a direct confrontation with Duncan. It can be seen that Duncan wanted to come down to the court to test Wang Ke's weight. The Spurs attack. After Tony Parker passed the half-court this time, he did not choose to find a breakthrough opportunity himself, but waited for Duncan to occupy the position in the paint. The Spurs seemed to recall the conventional tactics 2 or 3 seasons ago, die in the paint. Duncan received the pass from Tony Parker and leaned on Wang Ke with his back to the ball. Huh. Wang Ke took a deep breath, the spirit was already tense. The direct 1v1 with Duncan was like a direct confrontation with O'Neal, which made Wang Ke feel excited. Bang! Bang! Duncan tried to hit Wang Ke twice, but it didn't move much. In terms of tonnage and strength, Duncan is not dominant. But it doesn't matter, Duncan has a unique skill. Suddenly half-turned, Duncan stepped back to open up some distance between him and Wang Ke, and made a 45-degree angle jump shot. This is Duncan's unique skill. Because he chose to hit the backboard, the angle of the shot was different from the normal shot. And this just happened to avoid the interference route of Wang Ke's arms. Bang! Swish! The sound of the basketball entering the net sounded. Duncan ran towards the backcourt expressionlessly, as if he had done something insignificant and didn't need any excitement. Awesome! Wang Ke was also convinced. This time Wang Ke did not jump up to try to block the shot. If he did, he might have blocked it, but he might also be shaken off by Duncan's fake move. Every defensive choice must have advantages and disadvantages. Wang Ke just chose the way with the highest probability of successful defense. The Bobcats attack. This time when Wang Ke received the ball near the three-point line, Duncan also defended it personally. Bang! Wang Ke took a step with his right foot, still relying on his body, and forced his way into the three-point line. The two people's bodies collided continuously. Duncan frowned. Wang Ke's strength and confrontation were a little too much, and his dribbling rhythm was too good. In such a defense, Duncan could not disrupt Wang Ke's dribbling rhythm and make him stop the ball. However, Duncan also showed a historical level of defensive ability at this time. Through the continuous movement of small steps, Duncan tried to seize a favorable defensive position and forced Wang Ke's breakthrough to the baseline. There is also induction in this. Going directly to the basket, it is difficult to move. But breaking through to the baseline is unimpeded. Most players will fall into the defensive trap of Duncan. However, Wang Ke is not going to follow the script designed by Duncan. He exerted force again, and Wang Ke crushed Duncan and rushed to the basket. After 2 steps, Wang Ke took the ball and took 3 steps. He grabbed the ball with his right hand and raised it above his head. Wang Ke had a Duncan hanging on his body and swung the ball towards the basket fiercely. Bang! The most violent dunk appeared. Episode 60. Oh. My God. It's Tim hanging on him. Incredible dunk. All the fans watching the game were in shock at this moment. Wang Ke's dunking method seemed too brutal. He completely ignored the defender in front of him. And because the defender in front of him was Duncan, it added a magical color to this dunk. The gold content was infinitely improved. From the perspective of the audience, perhaps they just saw Wang Ke forcibly crushing Duncan and dunking. And only Wang Ke himself knew how difficult it was to succeed in this dunk. Duncan's defensive ability is indeed the best in the history of the league. If he really had to entangle with Duncan for a whole game, Wang Ke's physical energy consumption would also increase significantly. Of course, Duncan was not feeling well at this time. He almost used all his skills and used the strongest defense, but still failed to stop Wang Ke from finishing. Wang Ke and Duncan looked at each other on the court at this time, and both of them had a little sympathy in their eyes. Both are masters. Fuck you. Too strong. Awesome. In the room, Huang Xiaoming jumped up and almost knocked over the dumplings in front of him. Jiang Linjing looked at Huang Xiaoming in surprise, which was not consistent with his usual image. Then Jiang Linjing looked at Wang Ke on the screen again. This is so strong and manly. But it's too tall, too long. Jiang Linjing looked down subconsciously. Wang. Is there any problem with your physical fitness? At the end of the half, the two teams played 43-44. The Bobcats were 1 point behind. The Spurs showed better defense and scoring stability. The Bobcats, however, can only rely on Wang Ke's performance to drive. This is true for both offense and defense. Duncan caused Wang Ke a lot of trouble on the offensive end. Speaking of which, Duncan is definitely not a top scorer on the offensive end. But he can do too many things, that is, comprehensive. After Wang Ke strengthened the defense against Duncan's 45-degree angle rebound, Duncan immediately changed his offensive style. Sometimes he sent a pass to his teammates. Sometimes he had a solid pick and roll with his teammates. Sometimes he faked a shot and really broke through. Sometimes he made a high post jump shot. Duncan can do all these things, maybe not the top, but he can reach an excellent level. Great basic skills are not called for nothing. Duncan's basic skills are too solid. This made Wang Ke spend too much energy and physical strength in defense. In comparison, Wang Ke felt that he preferred to defend O'Neal. Although O'Neal's inside offense is invincible, Wang Ke only needs to concentrate on fighting with her in the low post. Don't think too much about other things. But Duncan can't do that, he has 800 minds. But coupled with Duncan's expression of paralysis, you can't lose your temper. No problem. Wang Ke felt his body, except for a little pain in his right shoulder. There was no problem with other places. And the bullet hole in the right shoulder is an old problem. Wang Ke didn't think too much. After entering the league, Wang Ke did a detailed examination of his right shoulder. But no problem was found. However, the 2 bones were indeed damaged. After all, they were penetrated by bullets. That's good. Head coach Bernie Bickerstaff patted Wang Ke on the back and walked towards the player channel together. There will be a 15-minute break in the halftime. Bernie Bickerstaff is not going to adjust too many tactics, let the players have a good rest. Is it finally halftime? I feel like I'm a little breathless. Yu Fei-hong, who was in the front row of the audience, patted her chest at this time. The first half of the game went smoothly, and the referee did not steal the show too much. On the field, Wang Ke played like three heroes fighting Lubu. He single-handedly challenged GDP. His presence on both offense and defense was extremely high. This made Yu Fei-hong feel that Wang Ke was really tired. Me too. Sister. Do you want to drink something? I'll buy it. Claudia looked up at Yu Fei-hong, but she still seemed a little restrained in front of Yu Fei-hong. She also felt that she should have a good relationship with Yu Fei-hong. Claudia knew that Wang Ke still valued Longhua very much. Accordingly, he would definitely pay attention to his relatives in Longhua. I'll go buy it. Take a break. I feel tired watching this game. Senior stood up, muttered. Yu Fei-hong smiled and nodded at him. Senior scratched his head and nodded in response. Time passed quickly. Wang Ke felt that he had just adjusted his breathing completely, and the second half of the game was about to begin. Wang Ke must win this game. Today is the new year of Dragon Country. Wang Ke wants to celebrate with a victory on such a meaningful day. At the same time, if they can defeat the powerful Spurs, it will also be a huge confidence boost for the Bobcats. Including players. Including fans. Even the team management. On the Spurs side, Duncan also had the same idea. Coach. I want to win this game. The big guy on the opposite side, I'm interested. When Duncan was about to play, he said to Popovich. That big guy, I'm also interested. Then win this game. Popovich smiled faintly. He naturally has absolute confidence. The first half of the game was just for fun. In the second half of the game, as long as the Spurs exert their strength, there is no reason why they can't beat an Eastern Conference bottom team. Oh. The Bobcats may be a little stronger than the bottom team. But in Popovich's eyes, there is no difference. This is the hard power that the Spurs have this season. At the beginning of the second half of the game, the Bobcats immediately encountered an unprecedented test. GDP is completely in motion. Tony Parker's breakthrough. Ginobili's three-pointer. Duncan's offense and defense. At this moment, the three GDPs are particularly dazzling. The Spurs' 17-2 climax directly changed the score to 61-43. The score difference is heading for 20 points. The Charlotte arena became quiet for a while. After the Spurs took out the playoff-level confrontation and game rhythm, the Bobcats seemed to be stunned. Also broken. Is this the gap between the team and the strong team? Many Bobcats players and fans were somewhat undermined at this moment. Even head coach Bernie Bickerstaff began to ask Wang Ke at this time. Wang. Should we give up this game strategically? Bernie Bickerstaff asked Wang Ke after calling a timeout. It's not shameful to lose to the Western powerhouse Spurs. After all, the Bobcats lack too much hard power. No. I want to try again. I want to win this game. Wang Ke's tone was very calm, but the firmness and paranoia in his words were fully revealed.